All right, another museum.
Yes, another museum dedicated to Edgar Allan Poe.
Hello there, Parapeeps, and welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels. I'm your host, Sean Donnelly.
I'm your co-host, Marianne Donnelly.
Sorry for being so noisy, but it is kind of noisy street here.
It's a noisy street.
This museum back here is in Richmond, Virginia, and it's dedicated to Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But before we get into that, if you're into the paranormal, history, forensic, and travel type videos,
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell so you'll hear from us next time we post a new video.
so this house belonged to the Edge family. Edgar Allan Poe never really lived here, but he did visit here when he was younger. But there's a lot of stuff inside that belonged to him,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So they picked this location to be a museum. So we thought, hey, we better stop and see some of the stuff. They have more stuff in here
And they did at
than
the
they did
Poe house.
at his actual house that he lived in.
Yes.
So we'll go inside and show you some of that stuff. And then, of course, it's haunted. So we got to tell you some paranormal claims.
All
All
right.
right, let's go. Normally when we do these videos, we just give you like a walkthrough of the museum and put music to it and things like that. But this museum, we wanted to stop here for a second and kind of point out and talk about some of the artifacts that they have here.
Because they have some really cool, interesting artifacts.
Right. So let's cover some of these that they have there.
Okay.
Okay, the first one that we have here is actually Edgar Allan Poe's childhood bed.
Yeah.
Now, Edgar Allan Poe's parents, mother, passed away at age 2, and he went to live with the Allens. He was never adopted. He was like foster, whatever. But he used their middle name. That's where Allan came from, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, he used their name as his middle name then.
Right.
Yeah.
So this bed would have been at the Allan house, I would assume.
I would assume as well. All right, so in the middle of this picture, you see a book. That's actually a Bible that kind of got passed down in his family for quite some time, and it has the genealogical records of the family inside, which is kind of cool. And then on the right is actually a document that actually has Poe's grandfather's signature on it. And we see his grave at Westminster Cemetery. Now, this is a handkerchief that his sister, Edgar Allan Poe's sister, apparently decorated.
Painted.
And there seems to be some blood spots, and those blood spots are probably blood from someone who had tuberculosis.
Yeah, either his mother or wife. Yeah. They both died of tuberculosis.
So in this picture, you see a chair that's actually from Edgar Allan Poe's childhood home. And this is the home that he lived in after his foster father, John Allan, inherited a fortune from another uncle. Now, this that you're looking at is actually, for me, quite exciting to see. This is Edgar Allan Poe's handwriting. It's the manuscript to Helen, and it is the only known manuscript for this poem, To Helen, which was published in 1831, but it's in his own handwriting, which makes it very, very exciting for me. This is a better picture of it, a little more close up, and there's his little signature there, Edgar Allan Poe, EAP, there at the bottom. So in this picture, you see some notes that Poe took. Again, handwriting of Poe. But it was notes that he took on Shakespeare and John Milton when he was trying to teach himself how to compose. So this here picture is a picture of a sofa that was from the Southern Literary Messenger office. And this is a location where Poe worked. And eventually he resigned from there, but when he came back to visit, this sofa was in the office that he would go to on a regular basis. So more than likely he probably even sat on this. Now these items are actually quite interesting. These are personal effects of Edgar Allan Poe. It's his pocket watch, a knife, and a nail file, and they're all engraved with his name. And they have it set up so you can like look through the magnifying glasses and see the etchings of it. And we have another picture of one that has, this is one that has the etching that's seen in the magnifying glass. It says his name on there. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Now these are writing desks, and there's a chair that actually belonged to Edgar.
I believe it's when he was working at the Southern Literary Messenger. Yeah. Supposedly he composed King Pest from when he was sitting in that chair. All right, so I don't know of anyone who doesn't know of Poe's work called The Raven. It's like his most famous poem, I think. But this here is the first printing of The Raven, which, oh my goodness, I saw a first printing. That was really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool.
I do have to say that they had these artifacts displayed pretty well with the information and everything that went with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty neat how they have it set up.
This candelabra, according to his nurse Marie Louise Shue, Poe is sitting under this candelabra, and he wasn't able to write because he was being distracted by the constant ringing of the church bells. And so it's what actually she suggested, well, why don't you just write about those bells? And that's supposedly where he got the inspiration for his poem, The Bells. Again, here's another one of Poe's first printings. This is the first printing of the Cask of Amontillado, which I read when I was in school, when I was a kid. I remember reading it.
Not this one.
Not this particular one, no. But
Probably
that would have been
way down the road.
a way later version of it, yeah. But yeah, it was so exciting to see original and first printings and handwritten documents by Poe in this museum. It was really exciting. All right, so here you see a picture of Maria Clem. This is Edgar's aunt / mother-in-law, because for those of you who don't know, he married his cousin.
It's not a picture of her. It's
Right.
a picture of her.
I was getting there.
Oh,
I was
okay.
kind of describing who she was first.
Okay.
Anyways, it's her cap that she wore. And then the next picture you're going to see are her stockings. And they were found in a trunk that she left to her niece, Elizabeth Rebecca Herring. And apparently she used to wear these all the time after her husband's death. All right, so in this photo, you see two objects that were belongings of Virginia Poe, and that is Edgar's wife / cousin. This is her trinket box that she used to keep her jewelry in and other small little objects, and then her mirror that she used to look into. And apparently, after her death, Edgar used to keep this mirror in a trunk that he took with him when he went on his lecture tours. All right, so this, I love graveyards and things like that, and this here is a piece of Edgar Allan Poe's original coffin. So after he died, he was buried, and you'll watch that in the Westminster. It already came out. Okay, the Westminster Cemetery video. That he was moved a couple of times, and so after when he was being moved, his coffin kind of started to fall apart. The clothing inside kind of like crumpled away to nothing. But this piece of the coffin was preserved and saved. All right, now this here, people used to all the time back in the day. They used to save a lock of someone's hair after their death. This here is a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe's hair, which actually becomes very important. As you know, Edgar Allan Poe's death is kind of mysterious, and they don't really know exactly what happened to him or how he died. They have some theories, but one of the things that they did was they took these hair samples and they did some chemical testing on them. So they tested them for things that generally would cause death. And so they tested them for arsenic and lead and vanadium and mercury and uranium and nickel and other things. And what they did was they made a profile of like what was in his body, what was in his system. And so they found that his arsenic levels were 15 times higher than the normal level, but they are 2/3 only of the level of arsenic poisoning. So it probably wasn't arsenic. Lead in his hair was 3 to 4 times higher than today's normal level. But they did notice from like looking at the different parts of his hair that it actually decreased over time. So as his life continued on over the last however long his hair was for this, it decreased by 33%. And then vanadium, it said it wasn't significant. They said that the mercury was high, but that it also had gone down 30 times below the level associated with symptoms of mercury poisoning. Uranium, they didn't find any uranium in there. And nickel, it was 10 times higher than today's normal level, but that it also had fallen, and had fallen 66% as he aged. So it didn't seem to be any of those things that they tested for that actually caused his death.
So it wasn't poisoning.
It didn't seem to be any of the normal poisonings. But I thought that was really exciting because as a science background person, to see that they took that hair.
That's the forensic part of our...
that they took that hair and they did all those chemical tests on it to see what was going on, and they associated it to the normal levels now versus then. And I just thought it was really cool.
Did you like it?
I did a lot.
Okay, that's all that matters.
So this is another interesting piece. So this key was found on Edgar Allan Poe in his pocket when he died.
It's a key to his trunk.
It's a key to his trunk, and it actually opens his trunk. But when he died, he wasn't wearing his own clothing.
No.
So, what?
Okay, so let's leave it at that, because I was thinking about doing another video about
Okay, all right.
the suspicions around this. I mean, you already talked about the hair.
I did. Okay.
We could do a whole
All right, I'll
video
stop.
just on... Okay.
All right, now this trunk is the one that I said that the key opened, and it was left at Richmond's Swan Tavern, which they had confiscated it because he didn't really pay them for his drinks, so they kind of took his trunk. Anyways, it contained most of his worldly possessions, including clothing and manuscripts.
So is this the trunk he had when he died?
This was apparently the trunk that was around the time of his death.
Which would be interesting, again, for the video we want to talk about, because he was just traveling to pick up... Well, we'll talk about that in another... Why do you have all of his worldly possessions with him?
Right.
That's... Okay. Yeah, that's another
Dun,
video.
dun, dun.
Another story, another video.
Yeah. Yeah, today we're just talking about this stuff. Oh, as we're going through these pictures, trying to come up and show you the next one, this is actually a much better picture of the piece of coffin. And it even has a little note attached to it saying, this is from this coffin. All right, so this picture shows Poe's waistcoat and socks that were his, and they were distributed after his death. The waistcoat actually went to his aunt/mother-in-law, Maria Klum. So that's kind of exciting. All right, and then this is sort of the inside courtyard of the several buildings that kind of put this museum together. But you'll notice along the border down there at the bottom, along the ground, is English ivy. And allegedly, this English ivy was brought here, propagated from the English ivy that was on his mother's grave in the other cemetery, Old St. John's, that we visited on our trip as well.
Well, we wanted to go over some of the items like in detail in this museum.
Clearly, there's a lot more artifacts than these.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do like we normally do, our little montage walkthrough with pictures and stuff of the museum so you could see everything that's there. But we hope you enjoyed this format. Kind of showing you some of the stuff that's in there
and some of the things that we
cool.
found more influential on us.
All right, so watch this and we'll get back to the video. So as far as the paranormal here, there seem to be 3 spirits that have staked claim on the museum. 2 are a pair of children with blonde hair and believed to have been from the Edge family. These spirits do not seem to act like poltergeists nor the ghosts, but they do like to show up in the backgrounds of photos that tourists take in the museum. Oh, we're going to have to check your pictures.
Yeah.
The 3rd spirit is a black shadow that wanders the halls of the museum. Though its identity is not entirely proven, it's suspected to be Edgar Allan Poe's ghost himself. Is he attached to some of the items from his life? There's a lot of items in here that belong to him. Seems particularly connected to a hand mirror that belonged to his beloved wife Virginia, and a walking stick he left in Richmond a couple of weeks before he died. This Black Shadow Man will also show up in photographs and videos, but he prefers to interact with items around the house. It's been seen walking around the courtyard behind the house, which is right over there. The museum's most famous story had to do with the unopened box of Edgar Allan Poe bobbleheads. When the museum opened up the next day, all the small figures had been placed on the gift shop shelf without triggering the motion alarms.
Very cool.
Okay, the Edgar Allan Poe Museum, what do you think?
It was actually pretty cool. They have a lot of artifacts in there, things that
A lot of
belong to
personal
him.
items.
There's a piece of his coffin, there's a piece of his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Which, if he is reported here, that kind of makes sense.
It
He's
does.
attached to some of those items. All right, anything else you'd like to add to this video?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, we got to find our way out of here.
All right, let's do it.
All right, folks, till next time.
Thanks for watching.
And happy hunting. Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting.